What's up, YouTube, and welcome to Codename Scream. I am that horror guy.
And I'm Mel.
And please make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications for all things horror. We are going to continue just covering our slashers here on With That Being Said. It's been kind of the norm here since the beginning. I love them, she loves them, you love them. So we're just going to keep it going. And so we're going to cover today one of my absolute favorite horror films of all time. I did briefly touch base on this one a couple months ago when I discussed the back half of my top 10 just before she came into the fold. So what are we doing today?
We are doing a film I haven't seen you this excited about yet. We are doing You're Next, released at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 10th, 2011. Wasn't widely released till almost 2 years later on August 23rd, 2013. It was directed by Adam Wingard, who you may know from 2014's The Guest, 2016's Blair Witch, or most recently 2021's Godzilla vs. Kong. It was produced by Keith Calder, Jessica Wu, Simon Barrett, and Kim Sherman, and it was written by Simon Barrett. So let's talk about budget, box office.
Yeah, let's do this. So, shockingly, and just like we discussed during Blair Witch, she just mentioned it, so I'm just going to shamelessly plug that we did cover that in our newfound footage series. So if you haven't watched that one yet, go over there. You think I'm excited? She was equally as excited not 2 days ago. But again, we have another film shot with a really low budget, with only $1 million to shoot this whole film. Granted, they did it in one place in Columbia, Missouri. Either way, it's still a shocker that in this, in this modern day, we can shoot a film for that little money. $1 million was the pull, the budget that went into it. The pull at the box office was $26.9 million, and adjusted for 2021 inflation, you're looking at about $29.5 million. So just a little bit on the adjustment side. Absolute success regardless.
And it's crazy to consider this is a success because the budget's so low, but if you think about like some of the movies we've done with like $15 million budgets, this would have been almost a flop.
Oh yeah.
Luckily, their budget was so low, they made some dough out of it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they lucked out hardcore here, and it shocked me that it was that. But how was the critic and the audience side of it?
Relatively high. Critics score 60%. We know those critics are hard to please.
Oh,
but
yeah.
on Rotten Tomatoes, 60% is considered high.
Oh, yeah.
And then the audience loved it even more, 79%, which is, again, one of the highest that we've done thus far.
Yep, we've given you two this week that are on the higher end of the spectrum. We gave you a whole slew that were scraping the bottom of the barrel, and now we're giving you some quality horror. Like pinkies out, everybody. Enjoy this one. So we are going to discuss the film for just a moment, but I have provided the link below, in the description below to actually go and watch this yourself if you'd like. There are a couple different ones here to choose from for your favorite streaming platform of choice. So make sure to check it out and don't just rely on these footnotes. You never know what you're going to get. So, we started off the film without an opening credits, which is awesome. Go right into the film, and it's a young lady and an older man taking care of business, and she goes downstairs to go fix herself a drink while he's in the shower. And while she does that, the floodlight in the back turns on. She's a little freaked out by it, and she puts on Looking for the Magic from Twilight Band. I'm going to discuss that a little bit later on because there was some fun behind that one.
The world's most annoying song.
The world's most annoying song of all time. And she's playing that, and out comes a killer, ends up getting her. Guy comes downstairs and finishes her drink, which is rude. It's presumptuous that was made for him. And there is written across the windows of his living room, "You're next," written in her blood. And he sees her dead body pulled up in blood, freaks out, and then the same masked assailant comes through and kills him.
You know what was crazy? Like, he noticed the writing before he noticed the dead body on the ground. I was like, how do you walk up? And it's not like he was up close to it and looking at it. He was walked up to it, didn't notice the dead body. I was like, that was the first thing. I was like, how do you not?
You looked down to pick up a drink and you didn't see in your peripheral vision the dead body. Maybe 10 feet that way. Yeah.
I don't think he cared too much about her anyway.
Oh, yeah. Judging by the performance in the beginning of the film, he didn't care.
No.
So, good on, this masked assailant taking care of business right off the bat in his own way. So we start getting right into the film where we are introduced to a couple that are celebrating their 35-year anniversary. So they want to celebrate it in their newly acquired retirement home. which is out in the middle of nowhere in Columbia, Missouri.
And it's awesome.
And it is the most beautiful home in the middle of nowhere ever. But Dad's retired from a large position in marketing for a huge defense company. And they're heading up early to go and take care of things because they've had workers in and out of this house for a while now. And while they're there doing some cleanup, Mom hears a thud upstairs and the chandelier shakes and the Dad pops up and she's like, "Were you upstairs?" He's like, "Well, no, I was just right here." And she's like, "I think there's someone in the house." And she goes into full-blown panic. Freaking out. It was over the top. But anyone notice that it was Barbara Crampton?
Yeah.
Amazing actress from the 80s.
Yep.
It was phenomenal seeing her back. So she ends up going outside. I love that scene where in that scene because he's like, "I'll bring this. Are you okay?" "No, I'm not." She's just so matter of fact.
It just makes you think if you were in that situation and you heard a thud above you, how would you react? I don't think I would have quite freaked out.
Yeah.
Like that.
It would have just been a minute like, okay. Yeah. Keep moving.
I would have been the first one murdered in a horror movie because every time there's a sound, I go looking for it. So.
But so Dad's gonna go look upstairs. During this point, we are introduced to the first brother, Crispin, and his girlfriend, Erin. They're heading up to that house, and Erin's discussing how loaded his family is and whatnot. That was an uncomfortable position, even for me.
Yeah.
Well,
I was uncomfortable because his name was Crispin. That was the first time I became uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's interesting little dynamic between the two of them. They're just kind of discussing things. Well, while Dad is looking upstairs, he ends up running into Crispin in the hallway, scares him, and he's like,
me.
Scared, yeah, because I'm thinking we're getting right into the action, and no, it's just Crispin, just hey, and he goes, "Why is Mom crying in the driveway?" And Mom is, introduced to the new girlfriend, bawling her eyes out. But little do they know, when they walk away off camera, the door opens back up a little bit. And next day, the rest of his siblings show up, and they are the most toxic siblings on the planet. All they do is make digs at each other constantly. Especially Drake. I hated him.
Yeah, me
He was
too.
my least favorite of the siblings. He's very condescending, very arrogant. The whole movie making stabs about his weight and whatnot.
And his, wife or girlfriend or
Kelly,
whatever was also awful.
Yeah, Kelly,
Equally
they were
awful.
perfect pair.
Yeah.
Perfect pairing here. That's what the casting was done beautifully.
Yeah.
They cast these people and these couples, they played off each other well and it felt like real couples. And I could not stand that couple.
Yeah.
One bit. And Homeboy looked like Wish.com version of Dexter. But we get to, after we've been introduced to all of them, we've got, Z, which is the girlfriend, and we've got the other siblings and the sisters and whatnot. Everyone shows up finally, and we get to our big dinner scene, and we get to see just how toxic this family dynamic really is when Drake once again starts making stabs at the sister's boyfriend. And poor Tyreek. Dude is just trying to make films, do documentaries, and he's just hosing him about commercials.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the real art form. That's where I really started not liking him. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So while they're all just back and forth and fighting, Tyreek looks up and he sees something, gets up to go look at it, and it's brutal. It is an arrow through the head.
I love how it was so unexpected, too. Like you said earlier, you expected the action to happen when the dad was upstairs. I did. The first time I watched this, I did not expect that to happen at all.
Yep. This was, I expected it in the beginning, and then I was like, okay, it's just going to be your typical, we're going to wait a little bit. And it was like, oh, wait, that was 5 minutes ago. Yes!
And the family didn't even notice at first that this is happening.
No,
He's
they're
got
all...
an arrow straight through the head, and they're still fighting.
They're just back and forth. He walks back in, and that's when they all oh. And yeah, so there is someone with a crossbow just shooting back and forth through the windows. And Aaron goes into full-blown, fight or flight mode, which is awesome.
Yep.
And they're taking turns running across the kitchen, or the dining area with these chairs so they could get past the windows.
I loved that scene.
Oh, it was so cool. Except when she gets the one through she just drops it and runs. But they decide, hey, we need to run outside and try and get cell service because no one has cell service magically now. And even the dad's like, I had it yesterday. Over dramatic acting. And so they decide, they're all fighting over who's going to be the fastest runner. Meanwhile, Drake had been pegged in the shoulder with an arrow. Didn't die though. unfortunately. So he's too hopped up on meds, and of course he's, the fastest runner. But they end up deciding that the sister Amy's the fastest runner. So they're like, we're going to open the doors last second. They do that. There's razor wire waiting for her and gets her right in the throat. And it's, ow.
Yeah.
And mom freaks out, rightfully so. And there's just this moment, it's kind of sad for a moment. Mm-hmm. So they take the mom upstairs to go lay down and whatnot. And they're covering up the bed. And they're like, well, what are we going to do? We got to get out of this. Mom's upstairs and dad's next door. And he's like, I got to go take care of the kids. Well, the dude that's been upstairs the whole time was still up there waiting under the bed. No one checked under the bed. They checked closets. They checked windows. They didn't check under the bed.
That's like the first place you look for something spooky.
I check my bed every night. Fun fact. And so they hear screams from downstairs. Mom gets it brutally. We see the machete through the mouth laying in bed. Absolutely brutal. And again, we are greeted with, in blood, you're next, written across the walls. Dad is now, rightfully so, freaked out. And we then just get through this, next little few scenes here and there, where we now discover that Erin's actually grew up on a survivalist compound in the outback. And she never told her boyfriend, Crispin, this. Crispin ran off to go try and find Kelly, who ran out. Kelly gets killed in the neighbor's house, which the neighbor is the guy from the beginning of the film, and he's sitting dead on a couch. And guess what? The world's worst song is still playing. This is our third time hearing this song, and we had to hear it for the whole kill scene.
And I had a feeling we were going to hear this more than once, because when she put it in the first time, she hit repeat.
Repeat, yeah.
And they made a point to show you that.
So. And it played, and it's so annoying. But, so yeah, Erin is this crazy survivalist. She's making booby traps with one of the girlfriends and whatnot. And then Dad goes upstairs and sees sleeping bags and piss bottles and water bottles. Turns out he's like, oh no, they've been watching us. This isn't a random attack. And Mass Killer kills the dad in front of one of the brothers. Oh, you'd think you'd be freaking out, right? Yeah. No, he's in on it. Turns out that there is a large family fortune that can be had upon the death of the family. So they're all, they've set this up. They've got these ex-cons, essentially, that are out to kill the family and pick them off in a certain way, because they have this whole master plan.
That was such a crazy twist.
Oh, yeah.
And one of many that we get.
Oh, yeah. That was just one of a few that we get here. But, so then we get... Drake, the annoying, arrogant brother, had passed out, because he ripped the arrow out of his back, and he passed out, ended up waking up later, and goes down into the basement to go get some tools for these booby traps, and his own brother stabs him 5 different times with 5 different tools. And and that part bothered me, because it was just like, can you just die already? And it's like, this guy has zero heart. And
he does hate his family.
Right, but
they all hate each other. So.
Yeah, it was like this brief moment though, he's shown zero heart to this point, but it was like that brief moment when his mom died and that scene where it was like there was some humanity to him.
Yeah.
But so Erin had smashed in the head of one of these guys with a meat cleaver. Brutal. Oh, it was so good. And turns out that that's the brother of one of the other assailants. She's hidden off, here later on. We're jumping ahead a bit, but she's hiding, so that no one knows that she's in the room. And she's overhearing the conversation about, the whole master plan here. And he's like, oh, I'll up whatever you're going to get. I can't give you money until my inheritance comes through and whatnot. She ends up messing up that guy.
Yeah.
Erin was awesome. Yeah. I love it because when she's in the basement and she's got the camera going off, and again we're back with the lighting.
Yes.
Just like how we had in 2018 Halloween with the floodlight. We got the camera light and just
awesome.
It was so cool. Love that. And then so now brother and girlfriend they're gonna kill her. They're going after her. They shoot her with the crossbow, but miss.
Of course.
They don't hit. A vital part. My absolute favorite kill in the film, hands down, is when she breaks the blender, shoves it on his head, and turns it on.
Yep.
And just, and the girlfriend, Z, is just sitting in the corner there freaking out, and then she just takes the smallest knife, puts it through her head. And you think everyone's dead, but where's Crispin this entire time? Remember, he ran off in the beginning of the film when the first, kill started happening. Cell phone rings in the pocket of the dead brother. It's Crispin. Crispin was also involved in this. The whole family was involved, except for the parents.
I love how Erin answers, but she doesn't say anything. That was genius, because then he just kept talking.
Yep, I loved that whole thing, because he's just talking, she's just breathing, drops the phone, he tries to proposition that, hey, we're gonna get millions, babe, and whatnot, and she slits his throat, and I love this, when he's just like, why? And she's like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
But she gets shot by a cop, because in the beginning of the film, she had texted 911, because if they did get any sort of service, that was going to go through. Cop shows up and goes to open the front door that a handmade booby trap had been put in, and we get the infamous "You're Next" blasted across the screen with the world's most annoying song for the fourth time.
It just wouldn't end.
And we were end. And I love this movie so much.
I love the ending.
Yeah.
That was a great ending.
A fantastic ending.
So good. Want to talk about some fun things?
Yes, of course.
So, like you mentioned, the main filming location was that house in Columbia, Missouri. It was actually abandoned for 12 years before they began shooting. So that adds to a little extra creepiness.
A little bit.
Because it's just a house that's been sitting there. And who lets a house like that just sit for 12 years?
Right. Absolutely beautiful home.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if what they were showing you on the outside was actually the house they were shooting in.
Right. Makes you wonder.
Who knows? But it was a house that had been abandoned for 12 years. The masks in the film, first of all, I love those masks. Like, they're just so, cheap looking, but that's what makes it so creepy, because these people are real, just heartless people.
Oh, yeah.
They actually inspired a lot of different things. After this movie came out, you saw masks like that all over the place. In art, film, and video games. There was actually a video game called Hotline Miami. Yeah, that's the name of it, Hotline Miami.
Okay.
I'd never heard of it, but I looked it up, and apparently it's a pretty big deal. And the masks in that are an exact rip.
Oh,
They're
okay.
two the same characters and everything. So this film inspired a lot.
Right.
The tiger mask killer, he was actually the writer-producer Simon Barrett. So he wrote, produced, and was in the movie. And I love when people do that.
And he was the first one to get killed.
Yeah.
He's the one that got his head caved in with the meat cleaver.
Yep.
So.
But I love when, writers and directors are in their own films.
Yeah.
I love that. So Adam Wingard, he wanted to direct a home invasion film because he said it's the only genre of horror that scares him. Yeah. And kind of me too.
Yeah, it tracks.
I don't get scared by, ghosts and demons, but things that could actually happen, freaks me out.
That's why
so
The Strangers is one thing that really bothers me. It's very real.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, anything like home invasion or people living inside your house when you don't know it freaks me out. Apparently it freaked out Adam Wingard too. The original opening scene was supposed to be a decapitated dog. It was supposed to be, an old man was supposed to walk out and find his dog decapitated, but the producers demanded that be rewritten before they started filming.
Understand that.
Yeah. I don't know, that's kind of weird though, because you see a lot of horror movies with dogs. Dying dogs, dead dogs. So maybe it wasn't that it was too brutal, it was just too overdone.
Right.
Who knows? They demanded it be rewritten. I couldn't find out why they wanted it done, but I'm glad they had the opening sequence they had, because that was awesome.
It was a great way to start it, so.
Yep. And then the last bit of info I have, the dinner conversation that they were having, most of it wasn't scripted. And the parts that were scripted were based on conversations that the filmmakers have had in their own families.
Makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, I thought that was awesome. But I love, you could tell some of that was unscripted. You could tell they were really playing off of each other and what each other was saying. But I loved that too. I loved the dinner fight.
Yeah, the dinner fight was just epic. And I loved the Crispin, with the whole I'm right here.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm having a conversation with my brother.
Yeah. That was awesome. And that's the first moment in that film where he became unlikable, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Because he was like fine, other than his name was Crispin.
Yep.
He was fine up until that point.
Even up till before that with him when he was picking at him in the morning and he was just like, stop, and getting all irritated.
Yeah, but then that's when Crispin became, like, you started to see his dark side a little bit when he was interacting with his family. But you had something on the song, the awful, terrible song that we had to keep here.
Song that never ends. So yeah, the world's most annoying song is by Dwight Twilley Band, Looking for the Magic. It was released in 1977 and was featured on their album Twilight Don't Mind. It was their second album. This band was not successful. They were on the same label as Tom Petty and were friends with Tom Petty, but did not get the same treatment that Tom Petty did. They inevitably broke up after the album with this song on it. But the reason I looked into it is so she puts it in the beginning of the film, and it says disc replete on track 1. And that song sounded way older than a compact disc would allow it to be. Well, it's because it is. The song was in 1977. Didn't get released on compact disc until 1990.
Wow.
It had 3 releases total, and it was most recently released in 2007. So not even that recent.
Yeah.
Still far back. The reason I had to look into it, it's not the first track on the album. It's the second one. That is a burned CD.
And why would she want to listen to that specific song over and over?
Yeah. It was a burned CD with track 1 being on repeat constantly. I had to look into it because I was like, there's no way. So there's your fun, useless fact about the worst song possible in horror. You learned a little bit something that I didn't even know going into this.
Yeah.
And they look like Wish.com Simon and Garfunkel. This movie was sponsored by Wish secretly.
He showed me a picture, and they have like kind of like the old Tom Petty hair a little bit, but to the point where they started to look like Farrah Fawcett. And it was, definitely.
It's
not good.
and this album cover is terrible.
It is. Look it up. Please do. Please look
Or,
this up.
you know what? I'm just going to pop it right there for you guys.
There you go.
There you go.
There it is.
It's awful, right? What did you think of it?
Okay, so I'd watched this once before, and it was around the time when it first came out. And I'd honestly kind of forgotten about it. Like, it wasn't super memorable for me, and I'm not sure why. But I yesterday watched it again, and I liked it, but there were a few, like, plot hole type things where I would get fixated on it, and then it was hard to concentrate on the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, some of the conversations they were having were very unrealistic, like the one with Aaron and Crispin in the car on the way there. Like, Aaron seemed like a genuinely sweet girl. Like, that's the vibe you get from her. Why is she so concerned about the money?
Right.
All of a sudden. Like, that was the first thing I fixated on. And just throughout the movie, there were several things like that, like how the mom freaked out as bad as she did when she heard that noise. And that's the only thing that kind of derailed me from, like, following along to the plot, because my crazy mind was thinking, that's not realistic. So it kind of took me out of it a little bit. I love the kills in this movie. You said your favorite one was the blender. My favorite one, because it was so unexpected, was the razor wire.
Yes.
Because, like, I was thinking... Because this movie, the thing I like about this movie too is it gives you time to anticipate the kills. Like, you know they're going to happen, but you have like 30 seconds before they happen where you can think like what's going to happen.
Right.
And I thought she was going to run out there and get an arrow or something. Like, I knew she wasn't going to make it, but that just threw me. I was like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
And just moments like that, like, I loved throughout the whole movie. I wish that they would have made some of the family members a little more likable.
Yeah.
Because I feel like you were annoyed with the mom from the beginning because she's acting like a whiny crybaby.
Right.
And then, like, the dad just came off a little pretentious. And, like, you didn't really like any of them. Like, the only ones I liked were Erin and then Z. Because she was so snarky and awful. But, like, it made her kind of likable in a way. I wish they would have made some of the characters more likable so you could sympathize more with their deaths. Like, that's the thing that I noticed with this movie that you get in a lot of other horror movies where you sympathize with those dying. Like, you're so invested in the character, and then when they die, you're, like, upset. I wasn't upset that any of these people died at all. But other than that, yeah, it was super entertaining and I liked it a lot. It really held me from the beginning till the end.
Excellent.
So, I know what you thought.
Yeah, obviously I've kind of raved about this, a couple months ago and got a whole time to rant about it now. Love the kills. The fact that this movie was shot on $1 million budget with that brutal of kills, that gory of kills, and in-depth, that was some more in-depth, brutal, like gore and whatnot than I've seen in other films with way bigger budgets.
Right.
So I appreciated that tremendously.
I think the gore was on par with like 2018's Halloween, and
Right.
that budget was like 15 times.
Yeah,
that.
15 times this. And so it's something that I really appreciate about that. There were a couple plot holes, but I'm on the flip side. Where you wanted to sympathize with the characters, I didn't.
Okay.
And it actually made me want them to be gone quicker. And that's something I really liked about it, because I'm so used to getting invested in a character and invested in a series, or even just like an antagonist, a protagonist. I'm always invested in one character. This one, I wasn't invested in a single one of them but Aaron.
Yeah.
And it was effective. It's exactly what I wanted out of it, because I didn't have time to, sympathize with any of the family. There were moments where it was like, okay, yeah, that kind of hits home a little bit, but as a whole, it was like, no, get rid of them. Get them off the screen.
Well, I think to a point, like on the flip side of things, some horror movies you see where the people being brutalized or whatever, you almost want the bad guys to win. But in this case, the bad guys you didn't really care about because you don't know anything about them other than they're hired by the family, who you also don't really like at this point. So like you wound up not really liking anyone but Aaron. And I guess that was the intent, but you don't see a lot of things like that. So.
Yeah, and I like the fact that Aaron from the get-go was just not afraid by any, so just
that was awesome.
Go get her. Just was the one to stand up and just go at them from the beginning. I love that.
And I love how she surprised Crispin with it. He's like, I've never seen you like this.
And I just love like their whole like dialogue between them was awesome. It's like, where's he at? She's like, oh, I put a blender in his head and killed him. Oh.
Just like deadpan.
Just very deadpan.
Matter of fact.
Yep, and I love that. And where's Z? I killed her too. And he's like, rightfully so. Understandable. He's just like justifying it. Like, okay, yeah, I'm officially terrified.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about that, because he was in a power position walking into this.
Right.
And you can see her tearing him down by just being deadpan. And effective. Absolutely loved this.
And I love that like big guy is so afraid of this tiny little girl, and it's great.
Oh yeah, this movie just had everything I love in horror. It had the gore, it was over the top violent, and we had a kick-ass final girl.
Yeah.
So it was everything I've ever wanted in a horror film, and that's why I was so excited, and that's why I love it so much.
Right on.
But what do you guys think about your next? We didn't really get to talk much about it the last time I briefly covered it. So what do you guys think? Send us a message on Instagram, Twitter, email us, talk to us on Facebook, whatever you guys are feeling, or even sound off here in the comments below. Make sure, I've been making sure to throw these on so often as I can. Get yourself some Codename Scream swag. We have it in the description below. We've got hoodies, we've got masks, we got shirts, we got everything you could possibly want. Possibly. Maybe. Don't get too crazy there. But check it out, and make sure to, send everything to your friends for a like, subscribe, and ringing the bell for notifications. We are going to continue our found footage coverage next week, going into Cannibal Holocaust, which was the first found footage film I ever saw, and one of my favorites.
Can't believe I have to watch this movie again.
Yeah, and so with that being said, scary later, YouTube.